Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. So, what do you think is the most important thing in life? What is it? Is it money? Is it health? Is it relationships with others? Is it service? Is it peace and happiness? I'm going to kind of combine those into one. So, the reason that I'm doing this is just to raise awareness around how we're living our lives, because I believe that is the beginning of change. That's why, I've noticed a lot of times in my podcasts that I'm pointing out what we're doing wrong, or the wrong things. And, there's a purpose to that. Otherwise I would have stopped, because I'm very solution oriented. Like when I'm working with somebody, we don't spend a lot of time talking about what they're doing wrong. It's focusing on what they're doing right. Or just like we'll talk about what we're doing wrong, but just quickly to gain clarity and then go into the solution, because that's what's important. But you do have to understand what you're doing, like one, that what you're doing isn't working, like that. And that's what I mean by wrong. I don't mean morally wrong. I mean that it's just not working. So like you have to understand when you're doing something that isn't working, that you're doing something that isn't working. Because believe it or not, that's one of the biggest things that keeps us stuck, is we do things that don't work and we just keep doing them because that's what we're taught to do. And I don't know, my life doesn't look like the way that I wanted it to look. And it's, then we fall into victim mode. Oh, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. It's like, well, no, you're doing everything that society taught you. And if you do everything that society teaches you, then you will get what society got, which society is pretty messed up, as we can see in this time in history. So like if you're going along with society, doing what society seems to deem appropriate and correct, then you're going to get what society got. That's like one of the rules for success. If you want what somebody has, you do what they do. So if you would like to have a life that mirrors the society you see out there, which has wars in it, corruption, greed, selfishness, dysfunction. Like if you do what society is telling you is appropriate, that's what you're going to get. Like the microcosm and the macrocosm is the same. It's the same thing. It's, it doesn't matter if you do it in an individual life or a group of people do it. If you do certain things, you get certain things societally and individually, because society is just a group of individuals. So the same laws apply. So it really would, do us a justice if we're slowing down and looking underneath, looking deeper at things. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just, look deeply into things so we can understand them, because honestly, I don't think a lot of this stuff is like rocket science. I think it's very logical. I think it's very simple. And I think most people are very intelligent. So where's the disconnect? Well, what I think is that we just don't look very closely at things, and I think that that's part of our society. Our society, we're moving very, 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 very fast. The pace that people live their lives at, and even that I lived my life at when my son was younger, it's absolutely absurd. Humans were not meant to function at that pace. And plus, we have all the distractions, social media and our phones in our hand all the time, tons of television stations, streaming whenever we want, access to, like, it's just, we're constantly distracted. And I think this is, and it suits society, because people just do. We're like sheep that just goes in the direction that everybody else is going. It's like, and we're very, very unconscious because of this. So I want to slow down for a moment and go, like, okay, like, we all have currency in our life. We all have something to use, right? It's our energy. So we have a certain amount of energy, and we get to put it wherever we want to put it. And where we put it determines what happens. So our general forms of currency, like the way energy is generally expressed, is through our time and our money. Like, those are the currencies we have. We have the currency of time. We have the currency of money. And where we put our time and where we put our money, I would say time is even more valuable, but money comes into play some of the time. But where we put our time and where we put our money is a reflection of our priorities, of what's most important. And I don't think we do a good enough job of slowing down and paying attention to where we're putting our time and our money, where we're putting our energy, our attention, what we're working on, what we're trying to achieve, like, so this is why I wanted to start with what the question, what's most important? Because, well, so this is there's a little spiritual duality here. There's a little spiritual two sides to the same coin, a little spiritual dichotomy here. And the thing with spiritual, what I mean by that is, where, as a general rule, right? So let's just take out spirituality for a moment so I can kind of frame this. So, like, as a general rule, where you put your energy should be in alignment with your values. Okay? Because that's how that where you put your energy is how you get what you want. So, like, if your priority list is family, work, play, well, in theory, then you should be putting most of your energy towards your family, if that's the highest priority, and then the next amount of energy, a little bit less energy, towards work, because that's number 2, and then towards play, number 3. Like, so the amount of energy you put towards something should be in alignment with your list of values, right? That's the whole point of having a list of values. Otherwise, what's the point? Oh, I think family is most important. Okay, well, you put 3% of your energy towards that. Well, yeah, but it's the most important thing to me. Yeah, but you put 3% of your energy towards it. Like, how do you figure? Like, you can't just say something is your priority and then, and that means it is. You can't tell yourself, oh, family's my priority, and then not back it up with your actions and then pretend it's actually your priority. That's called lying to yourself, right? So now the dichotomy piece here is that and this actually works in our favor, is that the amount of energy is not equivalent to the amount of time always, especially in spiritual matters. So like, because we're looking at energy is partially our time. That's a great way to monitor our energy, is through how we're spending our time. So like, the dichotomy is that your energy is of different strengths. Okay. So like, if you're meditating, like, actually, they've actually proven this scientifically. So like, if you meditate, and the numbers vary depending on what you look up, what study you're looking at, but meditation is more spiritual than sleep. Okay. Meditation is actually, you can do like, I'll just make up some numbers because I'm not going to look them up right now. You guys can look them up, but it's pretty profound. Like, you can have like 1 hour of meditation equal to like 4 hours of sleep or something. It's pretty dramatic. So when we're doing things, when we're putting our energy into something spiritual, what happens is our energy kind of is more dense. It's more powerful. It accomplishes more in less time, because remember, time is just an illusion. So yes, we need to use it in certain aspects, but it's helpful if we understand it to some degree too. So when we're doing spiritual things, it's like a dense amount of energy, so we can accomplish more in a lot less time spiritually, which is really beneficial, because the world we live in, I'm a spiritual realist, man. I don't deny the fact that we all have to make a living. So we can go to work 8 hours a day and spend maybe let's just say an hour of time on our spiritual growth, and we can get great spiritual growth out of that, because it's not 1 hour to 8 hours. It's 1 hour of high quality, dense energy accomplishing, as opposed to 8 hours of very kind of scattered energy, random energy, not focused, not, it's not as so much, it's not so intense. It's not so dense, right? So that, that plays in our favor. So it's not all about time, which is good. Time is just a good way for us to kind of get a gauge of how we're spending our time, and therefore our energy, in a lot of ways. So my point here is that, like, we spend a lot of time and energy towards a lot of things in our lives, and we hear a lot of things. So let's take those things that we heard and try to come to some sort of simple, logical conclusion from these things that we've heard. So we've heard that money is most important. Okay, why? I think a lot of you people listening to this will kind of understand that money isn't most important. Do we need money to take care of our earthly structures? Yes, we do. That's why we have to go to work on a consistent basis and everything. But so it's not that we don't need money. It's just that hopefully you guys understand that doesn't, like, you're not going to lay on your deathbed and say, yes, I made the most money humanly possible, so therefore I lived a good life. I crapped on people. I have no relationship with my family. I'm an angry, bitter son of a bee. But I made a bunch of money, so therefore good. Like, I don't think anybody's, hopefully you guys know that by now. So I don't think I have to spend too much time saying that money shouldn't be your number one priority. It can be a priority because we need it to experience things in our lives, to take care of our families, to take care of ourselves. So of course it's an important aspect of our lives, but I don't think, it should be number one priority, right? And then we've heard, health. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Well, I understand the statement, and to some degree, there's some level of truth to it. But if I go deeper, I don't think that that's necessarily true, because it's like I don't think health is the most important thing. Again, is it important? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I'm dealing with kidney stones right now. It ain't fun. So like so at times like this, we even get more clear. We're like, oh wow, okay, maybe I was taking my health for granted a little bit, and I need to take better care of myself. Oh, I have to put it a little higher on my priority list, right? Yeah, absolutely. But is it the most important thing? I would say no, because like, if I'm looking, basically, if I look at it and I go, okay, well, if I have health and I don't have other things, am I going to be happy? Well, no, like, because I'm not happy. Like, and what I mean by happy is a deep contentedness, a peacefulness, a knowingness that everything's going to be okay. A baseline of that I can walk through my life with, so I'm not knocked around by external circumstances all the time. Something happens good in my life, and I'm happy. Something bad, and I'm crushed, and I'm happy, and then crushed, and then, like, I don't want my experience, my timeline as I go through life, to be determined by external circumstances. I want to be in control of my life. It's my life. If I want to be peaceful and happy throughout my life, then I need to be in control of the peace and the happiness that's within me. If I just allow myself to get knocked around by external circumstances every time they happen, well, I have no control over whether I'm happy or peaceful. And it's going to be completely random. And I'm probably going to feel like a victim quite a bit. Right? So this is why when I compare it, and it's like, well, if I have my health, but I'm not contented and peaceful inside, then what good is the health? Like, I know many people, some friends, that committed suicide when they were healthy. Lots of people commit suicide when they're healthy. So what good is your health if you're dead? You don't have your health anymore. It's no good, right? So I would say peace and contentment is more important than health. Now, it's not saying that health isn't important. It's not a contest, right? It's not one or the other. It's just saying, like, what's most important? What's my priority list? In what order am I going to expend my energy towards these things? Not necessarily my time, but my energy. So yeah, energy is a better way to say it, to monitor this than time. So money isn't it. Health isn't it. How about relationships? Well, let's see. If I have some loving relationships in my life, that's a really fulfilling thing. That's a very important thing. I could see laying on my deathbed and going, wow, you know what? I loved deeply and and I was loved deeply by others. Wow, that sounds like more of a successful life, right? So look into it. It's like, okay, yeah, that seems extremely important. It is. So let's compare it to what we have at number one thus far, which is peace and contentment. Okay, so do I know people who have, and I go right to the extreme. This is why I use, the suicide term. So it's like, okay, well, have people committed suicide that had good relationships? Yes. Or maybe even a better example is if you have, if you're in, let's just whittle it down. We'll just talk about one relationship. Let's say you're in a romantic relationship. You have a wonderful relationship with your partner, right? But you're not taking care of yourself. You have no peace, no contentment, no happiness in your life. And you get knocked around all the time by life stuff. Well, then you're going to start getting that's quite a bit of negativity you're coming in. A healthy relationship takes healthy energy. So if every time something happens that you don't like, you start bringing negative energy and taking it out on your partner, you might not have that healthy relationship that long. That relationship is probably going to end. Why? Because you're not happy. Who wants to be with somebody that's miserable? Nobody. Right? So we have to work on ourselves and to be peaceful and to be happy, and then to bring that into a relationship. That's what makes it healthy. You can't be unhealthy within yourself and partake in a healthy relationship. I mean, you might be able to get away with it for a short period of time, especially if you got some codependent person that wants to save you. But if you don't do the work, eventually that relationship is going to combust. It's going to blow up. It ain't going to last. Right? So again, I look at it and I go, okay, my peace and my happiness gives me the ability to have a healthy relationship that's long lasting and deeper. Oh, okay. So, oops, peace and happiness goes above again. And I'm not sure if I'm going to remember all the things I said at the beginning of the show for the examples, but this is what we do. And family is a version of relationships, because that's what we have with our family. We have a relationship. Now, I understand it's not a romantic one, but relationships, the foundation of them, it's the same. There's based on mutual respect and love and caring and acceptance and unconditional love. And that's what makes a good relationship. And that's how you have a good relationship with your family. So I'm just going to kind of combine those two together. So this is how I look at my priority list. So again, it's not about how much time necessarily. It's about putting consistent energy towards things. And what I've seen is most people I know, even the ones on the spiritual path, do not put consistent, solid, concerted, focused energy into their spiritual path, which is how we arrive at peace and contentment, in my opinion. That's the whole point of a spiritual path. If you're on a spiritual path and you're not experiencing any peace and contentment from it, then you're doing something wrong. Because that's where you're supposed to land. That's supposed to be the product of the spiritual work. So I think that's the most important thing. And I just don't think, and I'll include myself into this, is definitely periods of time where I'm not putting, heck, if I really had to be 100% honest, I'm doing more spiritual work right now than I have in the past. So that's a step in the right direction. But could I be doing more? Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm in the middle of a phase where I'm upscaling that. Why? Because I saw it. Why? Because, one of the reasons, I mean, not all the reasons, but one of the reasons, just in this short period of time, is in the last few months, I had several health issues, split my head open and hurt my finger, and like, the kidney stones and stuff. Like, so I'm like getting like a cold, sick. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, generally I'm a healthy guy. So like, when all this stuff is happening, I'm like, well, this is a sign, man. I need to do something. I need to take better care of myself. And where do I go? I go to the spiritual first, because everything comes off of that peace and contentment. Like, that's why it's priority one, is because everything comes off of it. Like, if I'm peaceful and contented and aware, I'll throw that aspect in too, because when you put energy and effort towards your spiritual expansion, you become more peaceful, you experience more self-love, you become more contented, you're less worried, you can think clearer, like you see things clearer. It like, it enhances everything. So if I want to take better care of myself, the first thing I do is get myself into better space, because then just by proxy, I'm going to take better care of myself. It's kind of like, years ago when I was a personal trainer, like, I would go up and down with I was in the gym since I was, oh my God, 15, until I was 35 was when I get sober. And then I get back in the training even after that. So let's just say from 15, for the last 40 years, I've spent immense amounts of time in a gym, exercising, eating right. Sometimes that was a little less. And so of course there's rhythms and patterns, and sometimes you do better than others and stuff. And what I would do is, like, if I noticed that I wanted to, like, let's say I wasn't going to the gym and I wasn't eating well, what I noticed was that if I tried eating better, it never worked. Like, I would try and I would fall off, and I would try and I would fall off. But if I started working out consistently, then I started eating healthier just naturally. And it was very easy for me. And the reason is because, like, I started getting more energy, and my body was craving more food, and it wanted healthy food because I was using my body and burning it and stuff like this. So it would crave healthy foods. So then I would feed it healthy foods, and it would be like, yeah. And if it tasted really good because it was fitting what my body was asking for. Right. So I noticed that about myself. So if I was ever out of a rhythm where I wasn't, working out or eating well, I would start working out first, and then the eating would follow shortly after, just naturally. And that was just some pattern that I noticed with myself. But my point is that, like, if you do something that just naturally gets you to do the other things well, pay attention to that. Like, this is what spirituality does. If you take care of your spiritual condition, this is why, to me, it's the most important thing. Your spiritual fitness, your spiritual condition, which is what gives you your peace, your contentedness, all that. Like, if you're in good space, you just do good things. You make good decisions. Why? Because you're in good space. That's why. And it doesn't, like, if you're in good space and you're filled with this self-love and you're just really feeling connected and loving, and then somebody says, hey, do you want to go out drinking every weekend? You're like, no. Like, what? Why? Like, what? Why would I choose to do that? Why would I choose to just go out drinking all weekend, pour a bunch of poison into my body, and feel hungover all day Sunday? Like, what? That doesn't even make sense to somebody that's spiritually fit. because they're feeling good, right? They're energetic, they're peaceful, they're loving, they're looking forward to life, they like their life, they like the way their life is going. So there's nothing to escape from, right? Drinking and doing negative actions is usually an escape. So why would they want to escape from what they love, which is their life? This is why I think it's the most important thing. Because once we get our spiritual fitness in place and we have that peace and contentedness, and where there's all kinds of benefits to it, we're not knocked around by life's circumstances because we know we're going to be okay. So that makes life easier. Then we enjoy it more, and then we want to. When you're used to enjoying, like what was it, Richard Branson? I see, like, I don't really pay close attention to him, but like I see him doing all kinds of fun stuff. Like one time I saw him like at a corporate party, and like he jumped into his pool or threw somebody else into the pool and then jumped in, and everybody else jumped in, and it was just fun, and he'll go skydiving and he'll do all this stuff. That dude loves his life. Right? So like you do, when you're used to enjoying your life, you do things that you enjoy. Why? Because you're enjoying your life. And what's the opposite of that? Most people are spending all their time, they're not, so like you can do this in any order, by the way. Like you find whatever works for you. Because I just kind of saw a glimpse of something. So like if you're spending all your time working a job that you don't really like, you don't do anything fun after work, you're not really getting that much fulfillment out of your relationships with the people in your life. Like you don't go out in nature, you're not out in the sun, you don't touch the earth and ground or earth. It's called earthing or grounding. So that's really beneficial for us. So you don't do any of that stuff. And then, you just you start getting depressed because you can't stay in one place in life. Like you can't get a job, get a spouse, and then just stay there. Okay, I have my job and I have my spouse. I get up and I go to work and I do my job, and then I go home and then I kiss my wife and I eat dinner and then we watch TV and then we go to bed. Like that's like there's no movement in that. It's stationary, and this is what causes depression, non-movement. Right? So it's depressing. So what happens is people start getting depressed, and then they go to the doctor and they go, oh, I'm really feeling down. I can't get out of it. So the doctor says, well, geez, your body's not producing any serotonin. We'll give you a pill. So then you take a pill and you don't feel so depressed, which depression is a symptom. It's not a condition. Depression comes when you don't like your life. When you're stuck, when there's no movement, and then you start feeling depressed. The feeling of depression is a signal. It's a symptom. It's there telling you, hey, like you don't like your life. You're not doing anything with it. You're not moving forward. You're not progressing. You're not evolving. You're not becoming more of yourself. You're stuck. You need to move. You need to do things. You need to shake things up. You need to have fun. You need to do joyful things. And instead of doing those things, we take a pill. So it's manageable. So now we don't feel like we're suicidal. But do we like our life? No, we don't like our life because we haven't changed it. We haven't done anything different. So we got to get out of this habit, people, please. Let's just start taking our spiritual fitness seriously. It's the foundation for everything. Everything. You know, like, so I'm going to tell my favorite story, or one of them. You know, my son was like 8 or something, and he used to sleep over before he moved in with me. He used to sleep over on Friday nights. That was the only night that he slept over. So I was putting him to bed one night, and I said, "You're my number one priority, but I love you." And he said, "No, I'm not." And I knew what he was talking about, but I wanted to hear him say it. So he said, I said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "No, I'm not number one priority." He said, "Your number one priority is your relationship with God. And then number 2 is your relationship with yourself. You have to take care of yourself." And then he looks up at me with this cute little look, and he goes, "So you can take care of me. And then number 3 is everything else, like me." And he didn't feel like he was in third place. And I was like, "Yes, you're right. That's right." Because he didn't feel like he was in third place. He understood that number 1 and number 2 were so I could be a good father to him because I loved him. I did number 1 and number 2 to make me a better father, to make me more present, so that I could be the best father I could be for him because I loved him. It wasn't because I think, it was like, oh, like, that's nice. You got 2 things above me, so I'm like number 3 on your list. No, he understood. See, kids understand dynamics. That's a dynamic. That's like where you go, like, oh, number 1 and number 2 serve number 3 and everything underneath it. Oh, okay. I understand the dynamic. Okay. He understood that at like 8. Kids understand dynamics. That's a big fallacy. I should do a podcast just on that. Kids are forming their belief systems between the ages of 4 and 7 or 0 and 8, depending on who you ask. So like belief systems are dynamics. That's what a belief system is. They're making sense of their world and they're creating belief systems. So they're going like, oh, okay, well, my parents give me love when I do what they tell me to do. But then when I do something that they told me not to do, they withdraw the love. So love isn't unconditional. Love is conditional. So kids learn that and they're like, okay, so I get love when I do what I'm supposed to. And then love is withdrawn when I'm not. So if I want love, I got to consistently do what I'm supposed to. Right. And a lot of people do that. This is how we condition our children to fit into society. Unconsciously. It's just, if you do what you're told at home, you get love. If you do what you're told at school, you get accolades. You get, hey, you're a good kid. If you sit there and shut up, oh, you're good. You're good. You don't disrupt the class. You're a good person. Right. And then you got the other kid. And now I'm not saying that we're supposed to allow classrooms to become a melee. I'm just saying that there would be better ways of dealing with it and handling it. And I think the school system is way too structured and doesn't really work anyway. But like, so a kid like me, how that played out when I was forming belief systems is I was a good kid and I tried to be a good kid, but I was ADHD and couldn't sit still and they didn't diagnose it back then. So I just get yelled at all the time. Even if I was trying to do good, I would find myself distracted, of no fault of my own, because I just couldn't. I was literally physically incapable of sitting still and not entertaining myself for 6 hours a day in a seat. Like, that's just not what I was made to do. I couldn't do it. I tried really hard because I was a good kid. I came from a good family and I really wanted people to like me just like everybody else, including teachers. I just was incapable of doing it. So I constantly got negative feedback. So by the time I hit junior high, once I was in 7th grade, I was exhausted because I was trying to be good, but I kept getting sent down to the office all the time. So I'm like, okay, no matter how hard I had to accept that no matter how hard I tried, I wasn't going to get any love, any positive affirmation. It wasn't going to happen. I'd been trying for 7 years of school and it wasn't happening. So I finally got sick of trying and was like, okay, then what if I just did whatever I wanted and I take all this pressure off myself? Because that's what it was exhausting me more than anything, was the pressure I put on myself to try to be good, to try to live up to these standards that these adults had set. I couldn't do it. So then finally I was just like, okay, what if I'm just bad? And I'm like, well, I'm in trouble all the time anyway. I don't think my life would change that much. And it'd be really nice to have this pressure off of my shoulders. So I started doing things bad. And I was like, I looked around, I was like, yeah, I have no pressure. I feel relaxed. I feel free. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. And my life doesn't change. I'm experiencing the same level of negative consequences as I did before. This is wonderful. So that's when I lost my fear of consequences. And, but that was my belief system. I locked in a belief system. Why? Because I understood dynamics. When I do this, I get this. That's a dynamic, right? So you can teach this stuff to your children, is my point. So yeah, my priority list is my connection with God, and then self-care, and then everything else, and I don't have to go into everything else. I mean, my son is still right up there. Like if I had to start listing everything else, then my son is definitely right up there, and my family and my friends, my relationships are right up there. My health is right up there, and I think the rest of it is just balance. It's like making sure that you have a good balance with everything, and sometimes that balance will shift a little. Like if my son needs something, then I'm going to put a little bit more energy towards him, and I might put some work on the back burner, or who knows, I might put something else on the back burner. And if I'm taking good care of myself consistently, I might even put a little bit of self-care on the back burner. Like, let's say I'm exercising every day in a certain way and my son really needs me. And I go, okay, well, my son really needs me. Can I miss a day of exercise? It's like, oh, absolutely. I mean, if you take care of your body, 6 days out of 7, or if you're only exercising 3 or 4 days a week, you just exercise on a different day. Right? But if I have to miss 1 day of exercise because my son needs something for me, that's fine. My body's not going to fall apart because I missed 1 day of exercise. Right? So that's shifting that's what balance looks like. It's not 33% of 3 things. Sometimes family requires a little bit more energy. Sometimes work requires a little bit more energy. People get in trouble when they just don't readjust back to a balance, where they're like, oh my God, I have to, we're in a financial crisis. I have to start working overtime. So they start working overtime and then taking away time from their family. And then they wake up 5 years later, stressed out, and their family, and their spouse left them because they never see him and they have no relationship left. And they're like, I don't know how I got here. It's like, well, it was because you were in a financial crisis at first. You started working overtime and then you never readjusted. Like once you dug yourself out of that hole, after 6 months or something, you got to stop working the overtime and put that energy back towards your family again. And people just fall into these unconscious patterns and never get out of them until they experience extreme suffering. This is, and again, if you're working on your spiritual fitness, that won't happen. You see things quicker. If something is off in your relationship, you're more likely to see it and go to your spouse and say, hey, it feels like something's off. Is everything okay? And they might go, well, we never see you. Since you started working overtime, but you just never stopped. And you go, oh my God, you're right. It became a habit and I didn't even think about it. And we kind of got used to the extra money. And it's just the way of life now. Like, you're right. Like, okay, so what can we do about this? Like, maybe can we cut back on some things and simplify our life so we can have more time to spend together and I don't have to work all this overtime? Does Bobby really need the $300 cleats? He's in 6th grade. He's not even that strong. He can't even, I went through that with my son. Like, just about everyone else, almost everyone else on my son's soccer teams were up leveled to like the $300 cleats before he did, because I just thought it was ridiculous. And we didn't have a lot of money. So I was like, whatever, man. Like, these are fine. We up leveled from the $20 cleats when you were 5 up to the $70 or $80 cleats. That's where you're staying, But then when he hit, I don't remember exactly, it was probably somewhere around freshman year in high school. And plus, he was small too. He was a very small kid, very tiny. So he didn't have as much force. And that's what I really saw impact the cleats. I don't know why I'm talking about cleats. Sorry, guys. Me and my tangents. But when he once he hit high school, he really needed the expensive ones because they were a lot stronger and sturdier and better made and all that stuff. So, but my point is we spend oftentimes, like, I probably made it another 2-3 years without spending $300 on a pair of cleats. Plus, kids are growing quickly, so sometimes it's 2-3 pairs of cleats a year. That's a lot of money when you don't have a lot, when you're trying to cut back. So it's like, but people do it. Why? Because everybody else is doing it and they don't slow down enough and draw the line that I'm working overtime and I'm not even able to watch my son's game. Like, what would he prefer? Would he prefer having a pair of $80 cleats and his parents actually be present at the games because they're not working all the time? Or would he rather have the $300 cleats and absent parents? Most kids would want their parents more. Even if they say they'd rather have the cleats. So bringing consciousness in, this is, like I said at the beginning, it's slowing down, looking at things deeply, and then you can start seeing this stuff. So to me, the spiritual condition, whether you want to break it up into like I do, God, my connection with God is number one. That's my spiritual fitness. That's number one, period. Then I have to take care of me in ways like getting enough sleep, eating well, some level of exercise, that type of stuff. And then everything else. Because if I don't do those first two, I'm not capable. I'm literally functioning at like 50%. So then my family gets 50% of me. My job gets 50% of me, because I'm burnt out and I'm not happy and I'm not capable. It all stems off of that spiritual fitness. The more spiritually fit you are, the more capable you are of being who you want to be and all those other things. So putting your spiritual fitness first actually isn't, in a way, it's not even like, in a way, there's no order, because it's not either or. Like I said, it's not either or. It's not like I have to take care of myself spiritually and then allow other things to suffer. See, this is what we think unconsciously in our heads, that if we really take care of ourselves, then we're not going to be able to help others. And that's with our spiritual condition and or physically, with sleep and exercise and all this stuff. So like we think it's the martyr syndrome. We think that if we put ourselves last and we put everybody else first and everything else first, then we're a good person. That's not how it works. It's just not how it works. You get depleted. You have less to give. It's the same thing with money. It's like, you can't, I saw this the other day, somebody posted this, I've heard it before, but somebody posted, they said, you can't help, because I live in the Dominican Republic and there's lots depths of poverty here, extreme poverty. And like somebody posted, you cannot help poor people by becoming one of them, right? Everything is like that. You can't climb into a pile of crap with a bunch of people to help them. It doesn't help. Becoming part of the problem doesn't help. That's not how we expend our energy. That's not how we should expend our money. You know, like, so you have to expend your money responsibly. You know, this is, you know, I'm over in the DR and I'm from the US. So everybody thinks that I just have endless money, just endless, you know, and I try to help people where I can. So then when I help people, then they come back to get more help, you know, and sometimes I have to be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't. And they don't understand. They're like, why? Well, geez, it's your problem. But I'm not going to help them and then put myself in the poorhouse and then I can't help them anymore. Like, I take care of my finances and my responsibilities, and then I give from the overflow. I help from the overflow. Right? That's what we have to do with our energy too. Give from the overflow. So if we make ourselves number one priority, this is not selfishness. What it does is it gives us the ability to be the best worker, to be the best employee or employer. It gives us the energy to be the best parent, to be the best friend, to be the best spouse, to be the best child, to be the best whatever. That's where the energy comes from. This is why it's got to be the number one priority, in my opinion. So I think that's it. So spiritual fitness, and doesn't take a ton of time. Like I said, I mean, an hour a day, you know, I've even said like even less. I did a podcast like the happiness experiment that I think took 15 minutes a day. You can go listen to that, start there. But like, you know, if it's a priority in your life, having 23 hours of your life to do other things and 1 hour of your life to take care of the most important thing there is in your entire life, I think that's a fair trade. 1 hour. You can do 10 minutes of meditation in the morning. You can do 10 minutes of meditation in the afternoon or evening. That's 20 minutes. You know, you can expand that to 15 minutes or something. So that's 30 minutes. You still got 30 minutes left. You can read a self-help book or listen to a podcast. And you can even do it on the way to work. Like, I was busy at times in my life where when my son was young and I was working and I had a 45-minute commute one way and all this stuff. And I used that 45-minute commute not to listen to traffic and complain about traffic and listen to music or something. I used it for spiritual food. I listened to spiritual CDs back then, like all the way 45 minutes in, 45 minutes home. That was an hour and a half of spiritual food that I was exposing myself to. Beautiful. Got huge benefits out of that. So yeah, hopefully you guys get the point, and you set your priorities in order of the ways that work for you. And hopefully you got something out of this. So, all right. Thank you all for listening. I'm going to fly, and take care. Peace.